Well, good Sunday evening, everyone. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. I need a sight and sound check, please. Hello, Mike. Well, Mike, I've already put some money in the bank here around 6 to 6:30. Oh, only about 6:15, I guess. All right, thank you very much, Al, Anthony. All right, we're going to look at the week ahead. Want to remind everybody that nothing in here, these are examples. They're not meant as recommendation for any stock or security, and their trade ideas are really your own responsibility, and that trading involves the risk of loss of capital. A little bit about me. I'm an ex-US Air Force fighter pilot, and I have master's degrees in both computers and business. Been an active trader since 1998 and a full-time trader since 2009. I'm primarily a technical trader, but I use limited fundamentals. I am moderating a live futures trading room for hit and run candlesticks at the moment. All right. Let's go over the economic calendar, and then we're going to go to the earnings, a little ARB review, trade ideas, some questions and answers. And when I get to that, I want to make sure that everybody understands that it's not stock specific. Wait till we hit the plus sign in the room before we do that, and then once we do that, you'll take a look at your stocks. I appreciate your help, and if I miss anything, please bring it to my attention. Here's the economic calendar. We've got retail sales starting again at 8:30. The earnings season kicked off on Friday with several of the big banks reporting, including JP Morgan. And we got retail sales, Empire State at 8:30, and business inventories at 10. Those could be market moving, positive or negative. Tuesday, industrial production at 9:15, just before the market opens. Housing market and JOLTS at 10, 30 minutes after the open. Watch for a potential reversal in the markets during those time frames or a continuation boom. Then on Wednesday, we've got housing starts at 8:30, petroleum status report that I usually trade at 10:30, and the FOMC minutes at 2. We'll get a little insight into what the people were thinking on the Fed, and there could be a little bit of a market shakeup going there based on what transpires. Jobless claims at 8:30, and Philly Fed also at 8:30. And then on Friday, you get the existing home sales. It could move some of the markets out there. Here's some of our earnings. I've highlighted the ones that I think are of note. All of these actually are notable earnings. There are earnings that don't meet my criteria. They might meet yours, but I want to see somewhere in the neighborhood of just under, somewhere around 500,000 shares a day or more on average, and anywhere between $5 and $200. More than that, 200 to 250, I just don't see trading that much, and below 5, I don't necessarily want to be in those for earnings. Some people will trade as low as maybe 250 or so, or even less than that. But I'm not going to do a buy and hold. I'm going to do a swing or a day trade on most of these. And earnings, I tend to do mostly day trading. Bank of America on Monday before the bell. Before the bell on Tuesday, we've got Goldman Sachs, J&J, Morgan Stanley, and United Health. On Tuesday after the close, CSX, Lam Research, and United Airlines. Notable on Wednesday morning, Abbott Labs and U.S. Bank. After the close, United Rentals. United Rentals will give us a pretty good idea of what a lot of the big cap industrial names might be doing. Thursday morning, Philip Morris, Travelers, and Textron. After the close, we got American Excuse, PayPal, and Skechers. And none Friday afternoon, but before the bell, we've got Kansas City Southern, Procter & Gamble, and Slumberger. Okay. I love this little cartoon where they're beating expectations. Okay. Let's go to a market overview. For that, I'm going to sneak on over to... move it around here so I can find it. I'm going to sneak over here to Thinkorswim. Going to be looking at a daily chart. And basically what we're going to see on here is a 3, 8, and 17 exponential moving averages and a 50 and a 200. And down here below, you're going to see a stochastic RSI, which is Wilder's 7733. Or in toss mode, it's 733. The crude, I'm going to back off to a 6-month chart to show you where we are in the big scheme of things. This is kind of a very deep handle on a cup and handle. Stochastic RSI tells me we're going to go up. We are trying to go up here. And I would think that the next level that we need to be concerned about, and I think we're going to touch, is probably around 74 bucks. At 74, that's where I'm going to, basically say that it's the fork in the road. And as Yogi Berra used to say, if you get to the fork in the road, take it. And let's look at gold. It started popping a little bit last week. I'm going to back off on it a little bit. I may even want to go back a little further. Okay, this is a 1-year chart. We were up in the 13s, and then somewhere around, I guess, April time frame, we started to lose it and lose it big. We've been in a little consolidation mode for a month or so, and now maybe more than that, August, and we're going to probably do march ups to existing levels. I'm going to want to see a higher high and a higher low, and then so the breakout here above about 1230 to 1240 will give me confidence that we're probably in a new upward trend. Val, are you logged in with one? With only one window or two? Because if you log in with two, you can resize the windows. I can't make the charts any larger, right? Even though it says two, I kind of know why they say that, but that's the wrong way to do it, in my opinion. Thanks, Ed. You can make it slightly larger so that it just goes on the chart only. But I have it with two windows. I can resize everything. Okay, great, Val. I'm sorry about that. All right, let's go on over to the S&P. We're basically flat on all the indexes here tonight. I'm going to zoom in here after looking at it. I have the volume at price levels marked. That's what these little skyscrapers are that are sitting on their side. And they basically show me where we had the highest volume at prices. And the lot of volume here was at 27.25, and we came back and touched it. We just happen to be at the 200 period moving average. I don't put a lot of credence in those moving averages other than to say that some people might step up there, and I don't use them as trading, just to be aware that some people might. All right, what we've done here is we've kind of consolidated for 3 days. Actually, what I would expect to see out of this is we've done our big move down, consolidate a lot, and what we're going to probably get is some sort of bounce. Now, it could either be a dead cat bounce and form a bear flag and then roll back over, or it could do a zigzag and go higher. But it's going to take a lot of effort to get back up to 2850 to 2900. The old adage is that we take the stair steps up and we take the elevator or elevator shaft down. And we took the elevator shaft down. As soon as we Basically, as soon as we lost this 2860 level that I have marked here, the selling acceleration accelerated. All right, so I do show that we're going to get a little bit of a bounce here. My first level is about the 50% level, and the other is 80 to 100. I would like to actually deviate one. I meant to show a T2122 4-week new high, new low chart before going into that. For those who are in TC2000 and use that, the 4-week new high, new low ratio, I've watched it for almost 2 decades now, and I've come up with the pullback zone and the bounce zone. Those are my ideas of what they are. If you get above 85 to 95, you're in way overbought, and 85 to 95% of the stocks are making monthly highs. And if we get to the point where below 20 to anywhere around there, we're in extremely oversold territory where about 4 out of every 5 are making new lows versus those making new highs. Now, this is on the S&P. We got down to 0 back in February and just above 0 in April. Those are extreme readings. I have probably only seen those, I don't know that I've seen them more than once or twice since 2009. And every time we got a pretty healthy bounce. We got a little bit of a bounce here. I'm sorry, a dip lower and a dip lower right here to about, what was that? That was 6, but we're down at around 1.4 to 2.0 right now. That is very oversold. Will we get a bounce? Yes. The only thing that this thing is, it doesn't tell me how big the bounce will be, so how much higher it will go, the price. And that blue line here is the S&P 500 cash, the SPX. And it doesn't tell me how long the rally is going to be. It just says be careful with shorts and maybe be ready for a counter trend trade if you are so inclined. I normally am not all that enamored with doing a counter trend trade, but the shorts that I'm on, I make sure that I get out, and it tells me when to stop shorting. And when it gets up here, it tells me be cautious, sell at the first sign of weakness. We had a divergence at the top, and we had a divergence here, a continuation to the downside on the bottom, starting really mid to late September. So we had plenty of warning that we were going up here on fewer and fewer, basically on fumes, fewer stocks making monthly highs. All right, let's take that away. I'll come back to that in a little bit when we start looking at charts. All right, let's go down to the NASDAQ. We're down 10 in the overnight session so far, but that's actually the NASDAQ had the strongest bounce so far. Now, a 50% level here around 72.25 to 30. This little volatility stop will tell me if we get above that, we can do a rally. The volume and price level is way up here around 7,400 and change. So we have a long ways to go before we repair ourselves, but it's going to take a while. Now, this little dash line you see right here on the 3-month, that's also the 100-day simple moving average. While my son was going to school up in Northeast, I was able to visit him and met with some parents who were hedge fund managers. And we talked about trading and stuff like that, and what I did and what they did. And a lot of them kind of poo-pooed the idea of a 50. They would use 100 because they said there was a lot of overshoot. And they would look at the 100 period moving average and the 200. So I started plotting that, it's a minor thing just to be aware of. And you noticed when we started our sell-off of the NASDAQ, we kind of wobbled there at the 100. And we were at the ES, let me go back to that, we blasted right through it. So it did. These things do not necessarily act as support or resistance. But in some cases, they will cause a pause. Could that have been more the fact, not the 100, but the volume at price level, and people were stepping up there? I think so. All right, let's go look at the Russell. It's basically flat. It's only down 20 cents. I'll give me get that in a second there, SP. Let me back off a little bit here on the Russell. I'll back off to a 1 year. See the volume at price levels here? And the volume point of control here is all the way down to 1550. This is the area that I would expect to see long-term support. All right, let me finish the YM and I'll come back to your question there, SP. There's the Dow. Volume at price 24,730-ish. And it moves up a little bit. I guess down a little bit when we zoom in just a little bit. We're kind of wobbling around the 200 right here. I wouldn't be surprised if we bounced. We've got to get above this little the volatility stop there, or go down here and retest and do a blowout. The volume was pretty pretty substantial on Thursday, so there is the possibility that we've already had our blowout and blow off. All right, I was talking about the NASDAQ, and I mentioned something about a 50% retrace, and it was kind of eyeballing this last section here. That's all I'm using, basically the volume price control at 74.16. Let's call it 74.20, and we went down to 7,000. So half of that would be about 220, 72.20. And that's about where the volatility stop is. Now, some people would use 76.75, and I could see that. I don't use a lot of fibs except as an approximation, and I'm more concerned about the last move here. We had a move down, we didn't get a bounce, and we moved down. About this half level, 72.25. And if we get above that, then I'll start worrying about the 50% off the big move. And I bet you that the 50% off this small move is probably somewhere around either the 0.23 or 0.382 of the big move. So if you wanted to use Fibonacci's off of those, you could do that as well. And fibs will work well if you don't have any price levels off to the left to compare with. But we got something to compare with here. This 72.25 is about the low here back in July. So that's a point for me to look at, and why I'm kind of sticking with what I just said. But there's nothing, it's not written in concrete. It's in concrete jello. All right, the VIX, I'm going to go out to 1 year and show us. We had our spike in the February sell-offs up to the 40s. Then we had a rebound spike in March, and again in late March, early April, and those got up to about the 25 level. We exceeded that a little bit on this move, but I think the VIX will actually start to settle down a little bit. It's like throwing a stone in a very small pond. You're going to get ripples. Yeah, the volume of price levels. Let me go over to a one where we can see it quite well. I'm just on the Dow here for the futures. I trade stocks and options with Thinkorswim, and I trade futures with Ninja Broker. I do not recommend using Thinkorswim for futures. It has some problems with the charting and being slow, and the commissions are too high. All right, go into studies. I'm going to edit studies since I've already got it here. And what I'm using is the volume profile. And we use the volume profile. I'm using everything with that's standard out of the box except for one setting. And this on expansion needs to be set to no. If you set it to yes, it shows up on the right hand side away from the chart. And you can't necessarily get an overlay. I like the overlay, and I set the opacity way down. That's another thing that I will do is opacity about 30 or less. If I can see it myself a little bit better, but I had to move the opacity up to 30 from 20 or 25 so that you guys could see it while I'm projecting. Does that answer your question there, NB? They work, you're welcome. They work very, very well for the futures and for the S&P 500 stocks, mainly the big traders. And some of the Qs that, the Apples and Microsofts of the world or whatever, the ones that trade really high volumes, it works as well. All right. Back off here. Pull this out of the way. And let's go on to the trade ideas. All right, the trade ideas I've already posted. Let me post it again. There's the economics. Whoops, I just killed it. Silly boy. Give me a second. Hit the wrong button. Okay, trading, earnings. All right, and close that. And let's go over here and look at trade ideas. All right. There's not 20 of them there. There's more than the 10 that I promised. I am not going to, I'm going to have some that are kind of marginal and some that are going to work pretty well. I think so. And then you'll see all the charts by hitting the little link there from Bitly. It'll also take you out to Finviz. All right. And you'll get all the charts. But I'm going to take them in alphabetical order. ABX, a gold stock. This one actually had started up before gold, and kind of was a precursor. One of my favorite gold stocks. I think we're going up here into the 13s. It does have a strong move here and a consolidation. Yes, on Friday. This is probably more set up for either a long-term breakout or a day trade to get it up at the 13 and a half level. AEM, another one of my favorites. It's just now coming into what is a rounded bottom breakout with a greater than 10% move up to the 200. Somewhere around this $41 level would be my target. With an the $40 to 41, somewhere in that area. Let's mark this up here. It's 39.88 on that level, so it's basically 40. Watch for a move over about $37.75 to $38, and it'll be about a $2 move. ALDX, biotech, huge move up on gigantic volume. It pulled back to the breakout level. It was sitting at 8. It went up to 16. Half of that is about 12. We did about a 50% retracement. And I'm going to use the quad lines. to set that puppy up. And TC2000 has a thing called quadrant lines. And quadrant lines are basically a lazy man's way to do approximations of Fibonacci's. 50, halfway between the two is about 75, or a little bit less than that would be 6.618. And this is 25% here. If I can eyeball here is approximately 0.382. Kind of thin. ALDX, I'm showing 1.9 million. On the average over the last, now, you're talking about here in the last few days here. Yeah, 300,000 or so. Most of it is on that one day. You're absolutely right. And this is not for the faint of heart. First of all, it's a biotech. And second of all, it had a gigantic move up. I didn't necessarily say, but I get your point. This could be a musical chair stock. It's not, because based upon the fact it's not $2 or whatever. This right here is TC2000. Worden Brothers. I swear by it. Not at it. It has some limitations, but it helps me to scan for stocks and to manage watch lists. And that's what it's primarily for. They have a trading brokerage right now. I wouldn't recommend that, because basically it's using Interactive Brokers. Why don't you just do Interactive Brokers and don't pay the middleman? But it's absolutely beats Thinkorswim and almost any program I've seen in managing watch lists. Yeah, that's why ZD. Doug, if he were here, he'd say make it get over this 1330 level, which is where the volume point of control is. I tend to not necessarily wait for that level, although if you do, that's ultra confirmation. I tend to try to break it a little bit early. You could look in at maybe a 4-hour chart or a 2-hour chart. You can see how this is kind of consolidating there. Or you could even go to an hourly chart. You see, and the idea of 1330 breaking above that, I can see that. But I'm just pointing it out to put it on your watch list. I'm not saying it's a buy tomorrow morning. With all the topping tail of the big move. Yeah, right here. I know what you're talking about, which is about 1337. Right there. It just happens to correspond with it. Nothing's in a vacuum. Let's do the 2-hour chart and see where it is. Now the pullback was 1331 according to the 2-hour chart. I'm sorry. It's things like that jump out at me, and I apologize. I didn't slow down and explain what I was doing. My apologies. Not really. The green dots and the red dots are volatility stops, and I've got volatility set up at, what do I got it set up? Okay, volatility stop here. Let me edit it real quick. I've got a true range period, look back of 10 periods, and the range multiplier. Doug Campbell, one of the moderators in our set of rooms, and the King Daddy Rabbit of Right Way Options, he uses about 1.5, and that works for me on anything down to about a 30 to a 15-minute chart. Above a daily, weekly, you probably have to adjust it a little bit, and below that, you would definitely have to adjust it as well. So, and then basically shows that if you're an uptrend, you should probably use the green dot, and you should use a that as on a closing basis, not on a intraday basis. It's very difficult to hold it though. If it's busting right through it. I understand. Okay, let's move on. You consider it as an area, not a point. And to me, it's a nomination of an area of support or resistance. And then I want to look and see where there's price. And BSX is a pretty good example. This is the daily chart. The volatility stop is about 37.34, but when I go to the hourly and 2 hourly chart, it really turns out to be a little bit higher than that. But not by much. But it gives me a starting point. Which one are you talking about on Kimberly? Oh, the quadrant? Sorry, it's called quadrant lines. Over here to the left, it's in TC 2000. Yeah, sorry. It's the way of cheating. And my philosophy is if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But it's a quick and dirty way to do rough approximations of pullback. Okay, BSX. We get over here. I think we could go back up to the 39. We pulled back to the 50. Relative strength is there. That would also tell me that I probably want to be looking at other medical device companies and looking at those. That's the other thing that is. You should talk about cheating, Mr. Ohio State. Okay, let's go look in the sector. It's healthcare, sorry. Let's go look in the industry. Medical devices. And so when I go in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use market cap to sort through those. Medtronic is basically the same as BSX. There you go, SP. Abbott Labs, they call them. They report earnings, I believe, on Thursday. But Abbott's always been one of my favorites. You could trade this going up in earnings and get out, or find some way to buy options to protect the downside. Stryker, there's BSX, Edwards, I don't like ZBH or Align. It says medical devices, but it's teeth. And we're getting to the small ones now. And so I wouldn't be looking at. So what I've done is I've just said, if I find something that looks appealing, I'm going to also look across in that same sector or industry, or the possibility of others that don't show up on my scan. That's another really, really nice feature of TC 2000. And if you buy multiple years and get gold, you get delayed by 15 minutes, but you're using daily charts for your scans. It's 15 minutes. To be honest with you, that's a bargain at $250 a year, but $20 a month. And I put all of my watch list in there. It helps me scan for candidates, and in multiple ways. Another one out there that's holding on to Cleveland Cliffs Industrial Metals, pretty nice. It doesn't have a whole lot of dollars in it. It does have excellent volume. So this will have to be one that you're going to, if you got in somewhere around the 1230 to 1250 area, you've got to have to expect it to be breaking out. Yeah, 250s with data. But it's delayed data. Right. Thanks, Pablo. CME. CME pulled back to the breakout level. Let's see if it holds and curls back up. I probably wouldn't be trying to go long unless I drill down. Let's drill down to a 2-hour chart or a 1-hour chart. I'd probably want it to break above this 178 level. Yeah. And then I'd be trying to play it to go up close to the 180 to 182 level. Well, I think I know somebody who do that. I use 12.6. Well, I'll use 12.6 for the first 30 minutes or so of the day. After that, I'm using version 18 because it's got some capabilities that I like that's not in 12. All right. CRBP. Another biotech. Again, not for the faint of heart. It moves about 10% a day, maybe almost 11. And this one would be one that you're going to expect it to go back up into the 8s. Probably going to have to be over 7 something. GDX, like I said, gold is an area that GDX over 20, going back up here to the 21 to 22 level, won't move a lot. You'd have to buy a number of shares to make some dollars in it. GDXJ, same thing. The target level will probably be about 31 from 29.50. That's a little bit better. Has a little more volatility to it. Gold Corp, GG. It has a little bit of resistance here around 11.5, but the real resistance probably around more in the 12s. GLD, for those who don't trade the gold futures, it is a rounded bottom breakout, which would notionally would say you would want somewhere around 121 for a target. That would make it want to go back up to this level here that we had in June. I'm not sure it's going to do that, at least not in a straight line. But if people want to nibble a little bit, the other level that I use between there's my 100 period moving average. I've noticed if there's a significant distance between the 50 period SMA and the 200 SMA, look where the 100 is and see if you can find an area around that, like maybe 116.5. The other one we got here is Intelsat. How do I pick one what? ZD. You talking about pick one gold stock? I don't. You get a mixture. You buy 100 or 200 shares of 2 or 3 of them. They're probably all going to go about the same. If you want a basket, you buy GDX or GDXJ. Mine would be GDX because it has a little more volatility to it. 2.5% versus, well, it says 2.5%. They're about the same. But then, if you want a little pop, bang for your buck, you may want to get something that's lagged a little bit, like AEM. Each has its pros and cons. Intelsat is looking like a potential J-hook here. And a J-hook being move up, pull back, preferably 50% level or less, and then a move up. And your first checkpoint would be a prior swing. So this would be the move up and do the pullback. This right here looks to be about a 0.382 retracement, and then I move up. And when it got to 34, I'd make sure that it actually was a breakout. And here, where if I was kind of interested to find out whether it did what kind of pullback it is, I do the quad lines, or I could come out here and do Fibonacci's. And there's a 0.382, just a little bit more than that. There's a 0.5 and there's a 0.618. You probably do get more movement in an individual stock rather than a basket, TJ. But you also have single stock risk. So that's why I said pick your poison. About ready to get that. There's JNUG. Anything move over about 9.25 could potentially go up to 11.25. I think I'm going to alphabetical order. Molina Health reports on 11.1, so it still has a couple of weeks. We could get a rally here. It's right around the 50. I'd make it break this 143 to 144 to 145 level. And there's Nugget that you were talking about. You're right with me there, Pablo. And it got up to a prior level around 1575. And a reasonable target would be around 1950. So more leveraging there. You could do that, or you could go in an individual stock like AEM and do options. Let's go here to pizza. For some reason, Papa John's Pizza, there's a lot of interest the last couple of weeks. I don't know any. I didn't see any news, and it doesn't report until the 30th, but there's a whole lot of interest in it. Maybe there's a leak or something like that. I don't know. Give me 1 second, CB. The problem with pizza, it's in this area of congestion right now. Most of the move is probably done unless you can get over 55 to 56. And then you might get a move up to the 60s. Virtue Financial, VIRT. Basically, it's going to be in the gap above 2350, moving probably pretty quickly to 25.5. It reports on 11.6. And last one of mine here is Xilinx. Yes, you're right. I hadn't heard anything recently, is what I was saying. But then again, I'm not following it that closely. Xilinx came back to the old breakout level, and we retested it. And now I think we probably got to get over 78 for a move up to 83. As you can probably tell, out of these 18 stocks, there's probably only about maybe 3 or 4 that are really, really good setups. The rest of them, they've got some work to do before they can be good setups. And if the market rolls over and goes south, those won't work at all. In fact, if the markets go back south, most of these will probably not work. The only way that ones will fight the crowd, so to speak, and swim upstream and be successful at it is earnings. And what we probably want to then do is look at, and I'm going to look at 10-15. There's only a couple here. And before I go into these, I want to go back up and answer CB's question. Okay. How do I best do that? All right. These here, this is inside version 18. You can actually have scans as column settings. This is my setup and criteria for a J-hook. So if I wanted to go back here and show you where I look at it, let me go to my personal list, all stocks and ETFs. I've combined them together. So I get all the ETFs and all the stocks in one chart. I deselect the scan and it gives them regardless of volume or price. And I go over here and left click on it and it sorts them. And I also have one over here that is my stochastics RSI curling up from the bottom, and it draws a green line there. So what it does is it highlights those. Take care, Judy. ALDX we covered, Intelsat, VSX. We've got Cliff. You see all the ones came up here. Those Those are the first two were J hooks. The rest of them were potential for that. Then we get things like Agilent. Well, let me go down here to one that. Let's see. I'll try to find a. No. Trying to find a really small one. No. Yeah. All right, here's one that probably wouldn't pop up. It's still under 500,000 Actuant. And I'll filter that out by running a scan. And the scan is right here, what I call tradable. And I edit it. The price between 5 and 300. Average true range greater than 25 because I don't want stuff that doesn't move. And average volume 475 or greater. And it eliminates all the low price stocks or the ones that don't move and don't have good enough volume. So it basically says tradable. These are the ones that I consider tradable. It has to have enough volume, it has to move, and it has to have the right price range. Nancy, could you wait until we get to that point of the night and ask again? All right. Thank you. All right. So that's what the first one was, my J-hook scan. The next one is a variation off of that. And I want to edit that. And it's price history. A little bit different here. Volume's about the same. Average for trade. But it's an RBB scan. It looks for the round and bottom breakouts. And so I think something like GoGo. I think GoGo would possibly be a go above about 6. I want it to get going. MDXG, don't like it. Did a deep pullback, but the market's a pullback, so maybe it's not. Maybe you keep an eye on it. Brazil, I'm not so fond of. Camping World, Tesoro. Now, Tesoro is one you might want to keep an eye on. Tesoro. And maybe drill down to a 2-hour or hourly chart. Maybe take a flyer on it. Buy 100 shares and see what it does. Remind me at the very end, Kimberly, and I'll see what I can do because it'll take a while. I know I can get it to you. Just a matter of digging it out. Okay, so that's what we've got as far as the stocks. Let's go back to the presentation. I've got to do one thing. Okay, there it is. All right, before we get into any of the questions and answers, do realize there is a 30-day trial offer for a hit and run and right way options. $14 for 30 days. A bargain. It's 2 trips to McDonald's or less. All right, I want to know if there's any non-stock specific questions you have. They were, I know we've got one on the PCF files, but we're going to hold that to the end. Thanks, Ed. I'll give it a second. I'll take a wet my whistle here. We'll see if anybody has any non-stock specific questions. CB, I didn't answer all of the. I don't know how in the world I could. Well, all right. Let me do this. I will answer your question by giving you a post. That's the first one, which is the scan for that I use for a J-hook. This is my RBB scan. It's one of them. Sorry, probably the one that I use the most. Okay. Cancel. All right. This right here is basically an inverted J-hook. Let me copy it first and then I'll go over it. HSAM, I'm not sure. Ed, do you know if there's one out there? These are just the V-stops. This right here is just the volatility stop. So I get a dot, whether I have above the volatility stop, a red dot for below it. This is the balance of power, greater than 30 or so. And these would be an average daily volume. Next earnings, so I could do a sort. I'd like to, you've already seen me use capitalization now once. Price, sometimes I'll sort out for price. Don't use dividend yield that much anymore. This is the Doug's EMA, 34 EMA trending for 20 days. Basically a month. And there's actually a condition that we got in there. And the last one I've got in here is a blue ice failure. Now, there are 3 of them in here. It says that's a blue ice. It fits the criteria, but it really isn't. And this one really isn't. And what a blue ice failure is, well, it basically did this. It's already done its blue ice. It broke through the 50, does a bit of a rally towards the 50 again, and then drops all the way to the 200. So this right here was a classic blue ice failure. I have no idea. I don't trade using TC2000 at all. I would never do that. I would never recommend it. And if you're trying to do very, very high frequency type trading or something like that, Sam, I don't think this is the platform for you. Personally, I'd use something like TradeStation, NinjaTrader, or something like that. Okay. I've never heard of Fusion, but okay, cool. Okay, let's open it back up then for, I think I covered, oh, wait a minute. Is it, there might be, oh, no, don't, Ed already posted that one. What the RBB, and we got Kimberly. So let's go one symbol and one symbol only, or we'll be here all night. And I will cut us off at some point. My voice will probably run out. All right, Nancy, you're patiently awaited for the line. Thank you very much. All right. If you're talking about a long, which I'm going to assume, I don't see very many longs out here in the market. And that's because of the criteria that I have before I will go long. And and that is I need to see a move up, a pullback, and I need to see higher highs and higher lows. If he doesn't have that, I'm probably not interested in it. All right, as far as the line goes, we have the downtrend here. And if you notice, my 8 and my 17 exponential moving averages, Nancy, will pretty much draw the trend line for me when I look at both of those. And that's what I use my moving averages for. The 8 and the 17 for me are primarily for visualization of the trend. When they're both in parallel with one another, which they are, the trend is down. Another way to look at it is using the 8 and the 17 exponential moving averages and no price. It's going down. Was that in? Yeah, that's on a daily chart. Sorry. EMAs. Daily, yes. Okay. Is it trying to rebound? Yes. What would make it a possible long? Converting back up. Whoops. He did it again. I was too fast. Good Lord. Excuse me. Screen draw. Okay, now it's got the green. So here's the downtrend. I'd want to move back up at least above 340 or so. And then I'd like to have a retest of that 340 to 335 level and then go higher. This is what we're going to have to see. And the reason I'm spending so much time on it, most of the stocks in the market are going to look like a line. They're going to have a downtrend. You're going to need to break that downtrend, come back and form some sort of support level, and then go up. All right. Let's look at Weight Watchers as a possible short. Well, it didn't crash with the markets. It's coming up to resistance levels. If it goes back up here, it tests and then rolls back over, maybe. I think there might be other ones, Mike, that might be better, that maybe that had a big down move, i.e. a line. If a line should come back up here to maybe 340 or whatever, it could come back down and retest the lows. And I would look for stocks that made a low, do a rebound, and made that low on very high volume. And it'll come back somewhere near that and retest, basically do a retest of the double bottom. It doesn't have to be an exact bottom like that. It could be a bottom that comes back, say, goes here, bounces, and comes back there. That would be a successful double bottom here, even though it got down to here. It goes up to there, and it proves that it can't go lower. All right. Let's look at GLNG, I believe. Solid. Okay, yeah. GLNG. Actually, what I'm kind of seeing here is an inverted cup and handle. Now, maybe I'm just seeing things, but would you see that as kind of an inverted bowl, maybe with here and there? And now all we have to do is see that. Let me show you a trick in Thinkorswim. Looks at GLNG, And if I go over there and put a minus in front of it, it inverts the chart. And if we pull back down over to here, that'd be a cup and handle. We train our brain to see patterns. Now, could this be a long? Gosh, I don't know. Maybe, but it's got 27 and a quarter area up to about 29. It's got a lot of overhead resistance. I don't know where the target would be. Walt really wants to look at NVIDIA. I'm going to assume, Walt, you're looking at it long. The old prior breakout levels was 252, and even now 262. I don't like it. I'm going to want, just like I told everybody on a line, I'm going to need higher highs, higher lows. This is not broken a trend, not even close. So this is not even one to probably have on a watch list yet. This might be one where if it gets back up here to, say, this level here, 262 or so, it'd be a candidate for a short. Maybe. We'd have to see. But like I said, there's probably very few out here that are going to be long candidates. EA short for Bob J. Not unless you get a pretty good bounce, and I'd probably want to see the bounce up here to 112.80, 113-ish. Wouldn't want to see much more than 115. But if you can get up in this area where it was, where's the box? Where's the box? There's the box. That right there is a kind of a congestion area. I'd want to see it get to there, punch into the box, and then roll over. And I personally would like to see stochastic RSI get up towards the top and roll over again. But that's just me. Yeah, Steve. Mr. O'Neill wrote that book in a different time as well. GLNG started it on 9/14. We're talking 4 weeks versus 6. Okay. I talk about the pattern, but you're right. The guy who invented it or coined it wouldn't meet his criteria. David, I've already covered NEM. Over 33, probably goes to 36. I'd make it break 33 though. Gwen, hey Gwen, how you doing? MOS, Mosaic. Now, Mosaic is hung in there very nicely. I like that. Now, would one want to make it break out of 34 first? I'd want to drill down. The problem I've got with Mosaic right now, this is a rough idea, and I'd probably want to make it either break this 33.5 level or even this 34 area. A really aggressive trade would be a break over 33.5, knowing that you may only have 25 cents in it or a dollar before it stops. 25 cents to 50 cents. Okay, we're going to cut this off or I'm going to be here too long. I'm going to run out of breath. Sal wants to look at GLPI. This one isn't as bad as the others, but you can notice here the 8 and 17 are down. Over 34.50, I might be slightly interested, but it's got all this overhead resistance. Let me draw the. No, let me do a. I heard. Oh, that's a 2-hour chart. Sorry. Yeah, it still has the overhead resistance. Now, one of the things I read yesterday is since we've had this kind of mini crash, instead of using the daily charts, this guy wants to use a 3-day chart. So let's look at the SPX for instance. So this was a 3-day chart of what happened. He's going to want to trade off of a 3-day chart, maybe of a 2-day chart. The 1-day chart he says is too fast, but I don't know. You may want to start. Yeah, a really tough market, even term trading. As Pablo can attest, I had a rough day on Friday, and that was at a very, very short time. Okay, so GLPI in a downtrend. I'm probably going to want it to get back above 35.5 to 35.75. This is a REIT. REITs are as interest rates are going to rise. REITs are. Let's go. I'm going to assume you're going to be looking at a longer term hold. There's the weekly chart. It was a good one back here. And this is what I use for longer term holdings. GLPI. We went down. We bounced a little bit. We went down. Why did we turn down over here in September of last year? It was fear of rising interest rates. All right, now let's look at. All right, this is the SPLV, which is the low volatility, but what also is the interest dividend paying portion of the S&P 500, and you see how it's rolling over. I've got my mother in that, and I probably should have bailed when we did the move the other day. Maybe I'll be able to get out on the bounce. If we could get bounce out here, she will have collected 2 or 3 years worth of divvies. See how I pulled back, pulled to the 50, then failed and went to the 200. Classic blue ice failure. Should have been out here. Bad boy. Went to sleep at the wheel. Sully wants to look at Costco. Costco got hit on its earnings. Looks like it's trying to fill the gap. From a technical perspective, are you going to try to trade it or are you going to try to hold it? Let's look at the EMAs. The EMAs are still down. We're going to have to make higher highs and higher lows before the trend goes. I would suggest that you go back and look at the Amazon buying wholesale market. See what happened here. It didn't recover very quickly. Oh, sorry. I'll come back and get it, Mel. My apologies. This one, they didn't forgive it. Consider the market's going down and it recovered a little bit. It's showing relative strength. Again, make higher highs and higher lows. All right, here's your Netflix. Mel, I'm sorry. What do you think I'm going to say? Higher highs, higher lows. It's in a downtrend. I wouldn't suggest going long with your money. Oh, going short? Oh, if it got up here to the 50-day around 355, not the fact that it's a 50-day, but it's at the prior highs here, swing highs, sure. Let it rally a little bit though. Don't be anxious. You just pointed. You just said Netflix, but you didn't say which way. What I see. And Ricky T wants to look at Walmart. You're welcome, Mel. Well, the good part about Walmart, it didn't crash with the markets. The bad part of Walmart, it's not zooming higher either. Although, no. Keep an eye on Walmart over about 95.5 to go back up to 100. It will have to break 97.75 though. If you went long on that 2 hour chart, is it? Yeah, 2 hour chart, 4 hour chart. Then watch what it does when it gets up to 98. Flipkart's working out good, Rick. Oh, I've got a couple more. Sorry. Facebook. Well, it did its face plant a long time ago. It's in a protracted downtrend. I'm going to want to see higher highs and higher lows. Could it rally to 165? Maybe. But with a weak market, I wouldn't count on it. There's better ones out there for the candidates, but almost nothing. And Happy Gill wants to look at AC.to, Air Canada. Again, downtrend, got to break the downtrend, higher highs, higher lows. Sorry to be a broken record. SWN. SWN is chopping around like crazy. Let me go to a weekly and see if I can see anything. It's trying to bottom. Area chart. It's trying to bottom. EMAs. It's trying to top. No, it's kind of going nowhere fast. On the longer term, it's looking to bottom. On the shorter term, I don't have a direction. All right, I need to go back and Val, I'm going to let you have CRM real quick, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. CRM got a big bounce. This is a candidate for a failure to go back down and retest somewhere near 140 to 138. However, watch if it gets back above this 151. You're welcome. All right. Was it Kimberly that was asking the questions about the PCFs? Are you still here? Okay. Let's go out there and find it. I have a few of them. Let's see if I've got them in the folder. Okay. Now I'm going to post out all right. The first one, Kimberly, you're welcome, Pam. 2-bar high reversal trending down. That's the inverted J hook. The 2-bar low reverse up, that was for Thinkorswim. Okay, I couldn't see that. And the trending up is for a bullish J hook. Thanks, Walter. You're welcome. All right, let me see if I've got. Okay. Um, Let me find it. I'm looking. I'm looking. Okay, now I found TC2000. PCFs. Those are it, really, for the J hooks there, Kimberly. Getting error on the first one. Let me try it here. Okay, I'm getting an error as well. I don't know why, but sometimes they just go out and never land. They work for a while and then they just kind of poof. Let's try this one now. Okay, it's working for me now. Yes, Sal, we were already talking about it. You get it on all of them or just the first one, sir? Yep. The second one's not working either. Let me get it. Okay. Let me add them back in. Got to get over to it. Universal. We get the one for Thinkorswim. Well, I don't have it in text form. It's in a doc, not doc. Let me open it up and see if I can save it in .txt. Not everybody will have the latest version. Okay, let's try that again. Sorry it's taking so long, but I haven't been out there to look for them in so long. Okay, do we have any buddy hanging in there looking for any more stuff, PCFs or anything? Otherwise, I'm going to shut it down and call it a night.